goals. And I was listening to one of my business coaches. Of course, not everyone is perfect, everyone should not be perfect. I think everyone is perfect the way they are, and that's the beauty of the world. And that's what gives us different aspects of life, where some of us prefer to live out of the city, completely off grid, and some of us love a little townhouse in the middle of the city, enjoying life and everything the city has to offer. So the same way, having people with different points of views is really interesting, because then you get to pick and choose what works for you, and of course why those certain points that does not resonate with you, why is it important for those people, and get their perspective as well. And this gentleman I was listening to, has made millions of dollars, very successful person from the United States, speaks about what do you do when you do not actually have enough money, or if you're doing a job that doesn't resonate with you or does not bring in the income that you desire. And one of the things that he was talking about is letting go of me time, time that you spend for yourself, by yourself, doing special things for yourself. And whereas I find that a complete contradiction to my set of beliefs, because I think it's very important that we have me time. Of course, not to overindulge and have me time all the time, but it is very important to have me time very often, specifically when you wake up in the morning. Take a little bit of time for yourself, just to check in on yourself. How are you feeling? What thoughts are going through your mind that's creating anxiety? What's actually back there that's feeding into the fears that you have, the insecurities, the uncertainties, and so on. And I believe, and I like to take a more mindful approach to it, where I sit by myself, just get completely lost in my thoughts, and see what those uncomfortable thoughts, repetitive thoughts which are going in your head, and which I believe is super important. If there is a certain thought that's repeating itself again and again, for example, if you have to close a deal, and if that thoughts about the deal is repeating in your head, and then you identify that this thought process is starting to affect everything that you do on a daily, throughout the day. And it's very important to, if you cannot figure things out on your own about this repetitive thought, I think first of all it is very important to understand, is this a valuable thought that's going through my mind? Is it justifiable? Is there anything that I could do to solve it, or is it just a future fear, an anxiety based on something that could happen, worst case scenario, and or is it something that definitely needs to be addressed immediately, that you need to find a solution to work around it? So if it's a thought that's just creating anxiety, that has not occurred, the chances of it occurring is very low. Yes, there could be a possibility, but so do you worry about it? Do you allow this thought to continuously go on in your mind, or do you do some research around it in case it happens, that you're prepared for it? And I'm the kind of person, since I have this extreme ability to overthink myself into a dark corner and get depressed, and get upset at everyone around me and everything around me. So I learned to use this time carefully and actually analyze this specific scenario. Is it actually going to happen or not? What are the chances are? And if it happens, how am I going to interact, or how am I going to react to it, or create some measures that actually would get me out of this situation or solve the specific situation that I'm in. For example, if I'm waiting on a large contract to be signed by a customer, and it's because of certain uncertainties in the offer that we are providing, there is a chance that they would not sign this contract. Then, if this thought is going through my mind continuously, creating a pattern that's starting to affect every other part of my body and everything around me and even the people, then I go deep into discussing with myself what are the chances of this contract not being signed, what are the chances of the customers actually not being interested in our offering, and what are the how could I overcome those specific hurdles. And I list all this down, and I make phone calls, speak to people on how, if this situation happens, how I could counter it. There's ChatGPT, Perplex, so you can do a lot of research if this specific situation comes. So you actually, instead of worrying about something specific, you actually go into research mode, into probability mode, into analytics, and you actually do some positive work, put your energy there, because I believe anxiety, uncertainty, fear, all this generates a certain amount of energy. And there are certain hormones which are created, and these hormones actually elevate our level of attention. And when this happens, I look at it as a gift from my body, the nature that built my body, that actually is giving me a boost of energy, because it also boosts up my adrenaline and makes me more awake. And instead of continuing to worry and over stimulate yourself, you use this boost of energy to actually analyze the worry that you're having in your mind. So you're actually going a little bit nerdy and geeky here, and putting things into more understandable perspective. So if you need to discuss this with someone, or if you need to do some research, you actually have list down your worries and what is creating these worries, and what are the chances of it happening, and if it happens, how could you overcome it. So before you know it, you're already working on something interesting, which most probably you would never need to use, but in that process you're disarming that anxiety, that fear, that negativity, and so on. And also you may learn a thing or two by doing this research, which could be helpful in the future. And all in all, you end up back in a much more comfortable place, because now you've done the research, you've done your homework, you logged all the information, and you're prepared for the, in case the inevitable happens, you have a way forward from there onwards. So how do you handle your anxiety? How do you handle your fears, your uncertainties, and all these feelings that does not resonate with yourself, especially when it comes to business or being an employee in your professional life?